everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, or whatever time you're watching this. Coming at you here with a brand new series called the VC Picks. This was inspired by Greg Juke. Well, really just kind of conversations overall with members of the VC. So I've had members of the VC take a look at my Discogs, record collection, what have you. And there's a whole bunch of them that picked albums they'd like to hear me talk about. I'm putting my own unique spin on it. But first I have all of the picks here in my handy dandy Fez. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, so I just decided this was perfect to go with. So here's how this is going to work. After I choose a record from the Fez, I'm going to give a little bit of background on the album itself. I'm going to leave a little bit of a pause, so you could go down in the description. There's going to be a link for a Spotify playlist. I'm going to highlight 2 songs before the break, so this will allow you some time to go and actually go to the playlist and pull up those 2 songs and listen to them, and then we'll come back and I'll give my overall thoughts on the album. I think this is the most expeditious or easiest way for me to showcase these songs without actually having them in the video and later down the line having to deal with copyright and all that fun stuff. So it allows a little bit of interactivity. Everybody who contributed or made a pick, their channels are down in the description. Please go check all of them out. They deserve a lot of love. They're all great, great people here in the VC. That being said, let's make the first pick. And that will be... Ooh. So this is for Neve at Neve the Prog Nerd. This is Yes's Going for the One. So here is my pressing. There is some booty on this, so I can't necessarily show the booty here on YouTube. But here is my pressing. It's actually a very beat up pressing. It's a standard black with the custom labels. This is on the Atlantic label. A really nice triple gatefold as well. This is a beat up copy. This actually is a copy that is unplayable, unfortunately, but I did pick it up just because I liked the cover. I hope to actually get a playable copy in the future, but I'm going off of digital copies, at least for this one. So this album has the songs Going for the One, Turn of the Century, Parallels, Wondrous Stories, and Awaken. Before we get into a little bit of the background for the album, you should totally check out Neve's channel. I've left a link for her channel down in the description below. So this is the 5th album from the band, and there was a lot of different things that were changing with this. Received mostly positive reviews overall. I have some notes here. There was a break in activity in 1975, so each of the members of the band can do a solo album, and then they went to Switzerland to record this album. During the rehearsals, keyboardist Patrick, their keyboardist basically left, and it marked the return of Rick Wakeman, who had left to pursue a solo career. So there were some differences surrounding Tales from Topographic Oceans. So I've listened to this one, and it's really good. Like, what I like about Yes is really good. I am going to highlight... I know it's silly, but I'm going to highlight their 2 singles that had come out. Wondrous Stories and Going for the One. So what did I think of this album? Well, it is very interesting. It is definitely one that I had not listened to before, to be completely honest. And it's very interesting. There's a lot of really cool things that I like about it. My favorite song actually is Awaken, not because it's the longest song, but I tend to like longer songs anyway. But there's just a whole bunch of very interesting things that are going on with the piano work, the guitar work, just kind of overall everything about this. For me, you know, I didn't know too much. Yes, it's why I picked it up. The only one that I actually had is Owner of a Lonely Heart, which is the maxi single. I was looking to get a little bit more into it. So taking this, it's a great place to kind of start, but even though I know much more about Yes now just from passing listening, this was one that I didn't know as much, and I really do like it. Is it in my top 100? Maybe not. I need a little bit more time to evaluate it, but I definitely enjoyed listening to this one. Thank you, Neve. All right, so let's move on to our next pick. Okay. This one, ooh, friend of the channel. So, this is the Beatles Rubber Soul, but this is my Japanese pressing of the album, and this was requested by Marikan Craddock. So, for those of you who don't know, Marikan and I actually have a podcast, and if you'd like to check that out, check it. And if you'd like to check that out, there's a link in the description for both Marikan's channel and the podcast channel itself. We'd both really appreciate it if you do so. So I actually have two pressings of Rubber Soul, a US press and a very beat up Japanese pressing. This is unfortunately another one that does not, is unplayable. So I have to rely on the digital version, but it's songs that I've heard before. What I like about this, and just kind of a preamble, is there are different batches of songs for different presses. So Japan got a different version than the US, which I find very interesting. This comes along with a really cool color. I'll show that in just a second. But it also comes with all the lyrics to the songs in Japanese and English. It does not have the Obi strip, and it is very beat up. But I got this for basically free at one point. So what do I have to worry about? This is on a really cool, like, I almost want to say red wine color. It's almost wine colored. But unfortunately, there are just some unplayable passages, and passages that I'm absolutely worried that will destroy my stylus if I play it. I'm looking at side 1. It's very bad. Side 2 looks a little bit better, but there is just a nice little chunk out of here. So really, this is just a conversation piece. But now we're going to get on to my 2 song suggestions. And for me, taking a look at this, it would be Nowhere Man, and Run for Your Life is another one that I'd like you to take a listen to. So let's go ahead and pause here for your listening pleasure. So what can you say about the Beatles that hasn't already been said? I just love the history surrounding this album. It's one album that I'm very familiar with. But there's a whole history that I can go into that would take way too long for this video. But I did listen to this once when I was back on a previous stylus. It did sound very good. These pressings are known for their sound quality. But I'm just way too hesitant now that I know things to even play this. So these things are really expensive, so it's just a shame. This is more a conversation piece than anything. But I do absolutely love, I like a lot of the Beatles music, and this one is definitely one that you should check out if you haven't yet already. Let's keep things rolling here. Alrighty, the next pick is, by Miranda Holter. She had requested me to talk about Sepultura's Roots. I've talked about this album in the past on my channel, but here is Sepultura's Roots. This is the remastered 2LP 180 gram. It includes Roots, Attitude, Radha Mahata, but it does have a bonus LP of rare unreleased demos and live tracks. This album is a staple now for me. My mom's boyfriend saw this one time when we were hanging out, and we went into my favorite local shop, which is Final Days Records. And this one just happened to come up in conversation. So I happened to pick it out, and it is very good. The pressing is really great. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment as I pick the songs for you to hear. So the 2 songs you're going to listen to is Radha Mahata and, of course, Roots, Bloody Roots. So let's take our pause now, and we're going to come back and chat about this album. So what do I think overall about this album? This album is definitely a staple of metal music. It's so different and unique. And this was back when the Calavera brothers was still kind of heavily influenced on this album. Well, really the band. The newer albums with, the newer members of the band are really good. But for me, this album is just banger from beginning to end. Just heavy, heavy Really, really good metal stuff. And what I do like also is the extra tracks. So, not going to show this because there is some swearing on it. But there are the entire 2 meter sessions. So, Rata Mahata, Roots Buddy Roots, and Attitude are on there. There's a take 1 of Chaos, which has been previously unreleased. On side 4, we have Procreation of the Wicked, a demo of a demo of Roots Bloody Roots, Attitude, the instrumental rough mix, Cutthroat, the instrumental rough mix. One song I can't say because it's got a swear on it, instrumental rough mix, a demo, RDP demo, and Dusted demo. So there is just a lot of really good goodies on this, and I'm very glad that I grabbed this. I did appreciate the first time I listened to it until I actually got deeper in the band, and I really appreciate, especially the 2 meter sessions. The live tracks are, if you're going to pick this one up, definitely pick this version up because those live tracks are really worth your money. Really well recorded, and it just kind of showcases the band at the time this had come out. All right, we still got a few more to go, keeping this train a-rolling. All right, let's see here. Aha! All right, John at JB's Vinyl Cassette has chosen Temple of the Dog. So, this album is intrinsically tied to my channel. This is the Music on Vinyl press. It's black. It has all the songs that you know and love from this album. This has a really cool etched 4th side, which you'll see when we pop to the break. But this album is intrinsically me. To say this album is important to me is like saying we breathe air. So it's going to be very hard for me to choose 2 songs from this album, but I would like to definitely showcase to you Say Hello to Heaven. And I'm going to pick a non-one that you would know, and I'm going to have you take a listen to Call Me a Dog. So we're going to take a break here, and I'm going to have you go take a listen to those 2 songs, come back, and we'll talk a little bit more about this album. Okay, I am exactly 11 days older than this album, and I only found out about that after digging a little bit further a couple of years ago, researching. And not only is this intrinsically tied to one of my favorite bands of all time, Soundgarden, it's intrinsically tied with Pearl Jam, another one of my favorite albums. It's also intrinsically tied with Pearl Jam, another one of my favorite bands. So this album is just pure supergroup amazingness. And ever since Chris Cornell passed away, I cannot stop thinking about him and his influence on me and just overall with music. The mixing on this is fantastic. You know, the songcraft. This was a tribute to of another supergroup called Metal Love Bone, which was kind of, again, it's a supergroup of its own. So paying tributes to that wonderful singer Andrew Wood, his untimely death, and just, you know, kind of launching-ish, not really, but kind of getting everybody together to eventually form Pearl Jam. Chris's vocals on this are just absolutely amazing. I mean, if you listen to Say Hello to Heaven, you hear all the heights of his vocals that soared. You definitely have heard Hunger Strike. It's a radio staple. But there are other songs like Wooden Jesus, Call Me a Dog, For World World, the genre. And this is also tied to my YouTube channel. Because one of my very first videos I ever did was a contest entry to Vinyl Collector James. And at that point, I had just never even thought about doing YouTube videos. And one of my very first videos is an entry, and this is the album I actually won. So this was the album that I had picked, and it stayed with me all this time that I have been on YouTube. So just to say this is important to the channel is like saying I'm important to the channel. It is the lifeblood of a lot of what I do in life, and I revisit this album often. I'd say at least once a month. And this pressing, if you can get your hands on the Music on Vinyl pressing, it's great. I don't know about the other pressings, but this pressing that I have is wonderful. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. There's about 4 left in here, and then we are done with this first episode. So let's see what was picked. Okay, Retro Vinyl Spin wanted to hear about JoJo's Mad Love. So I heard this on a whim. I knew of JoJo a couple of songs back when she was kind of in the acting spotlight, and then she kind of went away for a little bit from my consciousness, and then came out with this album. Very kind of R&B, hip hop inspired stuff. Not my usual listening stuff, but I definitely dug it just from the album cover alone. I love the custom inner label. I just also love the back cover, and I do believe, yes, there is kind of a custom art print that kind of goes along with it. But this album is really just kind of different and interesting. So the two songs I'd like to highlight are I Can Only, which features Alicia Cara, and High Heels, which is on the B-side. Take a pause here, and then we will talk about this album. Are genres that I typically don't know much about, and that's because I don't listen to them that much, and not because I don't like it. It just doesn't gel with me. But this album is really, really good. I love Alicia Cara, and just hearing her work with JoJo, and just the way her voice soars with a lot of it. The way her voice kind of just works so well throughout this entire album is great. Not in my top albums of all time, but definitely one worth checking out. All the albums that I have bought and added to my collection, I absolutely love for one reason or another. And this is no exception. I haven't listened to this in a very long time, so I want to thank you for picking this one and making me listen to one that I haven't in quite some time. I gave it another look at in another lens and came out liking it a lot more. We're on to the final three. Okay. Jason over at JLive has picked Van Halen's 1984. I literally just got done listening to this. This is my pressing. I just got done listening to this just before I decided to start filming this video. So my thoughts are just fresh on this. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? We'll get into that after the break. But this album is just pure awesomeness. And actually, this pressing really made me appreciate it a lot more. And I was on a live stream of Jason's with my co-host Marikan of the podcast. And I have a lot to say about this album. And actually, I have a lot more to say now. So if you'd like to see the original context of that, I think he still has it live. If not, I'll kind of go over what I said there. But so the two songs I have picked are gonna be I'll Wait and Top Jimmy. So I'll leave a pause here for you to check this out, and we'll come back and chat a little bit more about this album. So when I was getting back into listening to Van Halen, I wasn't that knowledgeable, to be honest. And when I decided to come back to this one, this being a precursor to the Van Hagar era, I love 5150. It's one of my favorites. But now this is slowly becoming a new favorite of mine. And just the mixing on this is wonderful. This is the 30th anniversary pressing. The lacquers were cut by Chris Bellman and Bernie Grubb mastering, but there's this synergy between just everybody. You could hear on a couple of tracks that Alex and Eddie were just kind of grooving and moving together. And what I find interesting is this is the last album for David Lee Roth until we got, a reunion years and years and years later. So to have that kind of synergy like this and to make this work even when there's behind the scenes drama really kind of makes me appreciate the craftsmanship of Eddie Van Halen and just everything about this album. And if you haven't, I don't know if they're still available. I paid about like $25 for this pressing, and it's easily worth about $40 with the way everything is. If you can get this pressing, the Chris Bellman cut pressing, this is one of the best sounding records I own now, and I'm so glad to have this. This actually might be one that, if I test sound systems, I bring it along with me. It is so good. The highs hit, the mids hit. Everything is so well done about this, and the history of Van Halen, this had a lot of their hits on it. And to say that's quite a big accomplishment, because they definitely had a storied career with a whole bunch of things, and to have something come out of a bad relationship and it sounds so good, and things mended later on and everything, but it's just, don't discount the work of this one. This is definitely worth your time. We got two more. This is a 50-50 to see who's going to be second to last and who's going to be last. Ooh. Sean, over at Now Spinning TV, wants to hear about Jewel Vera, Friendly Enemies. Okay, so this is an EP by the wonderful band Jewel Vera. You have not checked these wonderful, wonderful humans out, you should definitely do so. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. This is my split. My friend and I call this the Pokeball because of the colors pressing. But I am going to take a look here. Let's have you check out Chemical Machine and Friendly Enemies. This is an 8-track EP. I could easily put all of them, but I just like to highlight just 2 of the songs of each band's or EP or album that are coming up here. So let's take a pause here, have you listen. We're going to come back and chat about this.
I was waiting on the morning shuttle, so I was just curled up on a floor.
So what kind of drew me in was one of my best friends drew me in and had me listen to Light the Night, which reminded me of the Hayley Williams collaboration she did with Zedd called Stay the Night. And I was just hooked. I was hooked by the vocals and just everything about this, and just the cover is so cool on its own. But if you can, check out all 8 songs. It's good beginning to end. This is one of my favorite EPs just overall. If I'm doing the top 100, I'm not going to include EPs on there, but this is definitely high up there when it comes to EPs. Definitely worth your time. Very pop-punky, modern kind of in some of the sensibilities with the vocals and everything, but definitely worth your time if you take a moment to listen to this. Of course, we got one left from the Fez, so I'm going to put everything back in. And Greg Juke, who I shouted out at the beginning of the video, wants me to talk about Joni Mitchell's Court and Spark. So, when I went down to see my uncle, I went to Houston, and we stopped at Cactus Music Records Ranch. Actually, I was very impressed by this record store. And they had this pressing, the Asylum Records pressing, that had a hype sticker still on it, and everything was just in really great shape. So I actually have quite a bit to say on this, so we're going to take a pause here. I'd like you to take a look at People's Parties and Just Like This Train. So before I left, I was watching some YouTube, and one of my favorite bands is Opeth. Michael from Opeth, the lead singer, was talking about albums that he thinks you should check out. So he happened to show this one, Joni Mitchell's Court and Spark, and I saw it, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. She has a way with music. There's no denying it. There is just no denying that Joni Mitchell has a way with music and words, and just the way she shapes music. Just everything that she puts into it is just wonderful. This album came out 1973. I like a lot of 70s music. For some reason, I'm drawn intrinsically to 70s, and I guess I'm just an old soul. But you heard the 2 songs. They're just... This album is great beginning to end. I don't know how much more I could say on it, even though I did have to say quite a bit, but that's beside the point. I kind of touched on kind of what I wanted to say here. But very, very interesting album to go to. Definitely check out of all the albums to check out. You should definitely check this one out probably first. It's very, very good. Classic 70s era music that is just ageless. It is so good. So that about does it for this episode of VC Picks. Are you listening to anything cool? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, you should definitely check out everybody who made a pick for me. All their channels will be linked down in the description. Give them a subscribe, and if you haven't yet and you like what you see here, go ahead and subscribe as well. I'm going to put out weekly content, including stuff like this that you're seeing here, as well as some concert stories and other fun stuff. Have a lot planned for this year, so if you're coming back, welcome back. If this is your first time, thank you for watching. And if you have been subscribed and you're back, welcome back. I'm glad to be back. There's a lot more content coming, I promise. So I cannot wait to do another episode of this. This was a lot of fun to make, and it really got me back to listening to music that I hadn't had a chance to take a listen to. So create an interesting vinyl stack, to be sure. As I say at the end of everything that I'm in, when the waters get rough, please, please keep on sailing. Even if you feel like no one else believes in you, I believe in you. I want to be that light in the dark, even if you're not in the capacity to hear it. You are loved. You are beautiful. You are the only you, and that makes it amazing. So until the next time, take care, and you are loved, you are wanted. See ya.